Hey guys, I've just come off watching the new Roadhouse film that has released today. It released at 7 a.m. over here. It's now 12:48. I watched it about 2 hours ago. It's a 2-hour long film. It's actually pretty good. I'm going to give my ranking here before we get into the spoilers. I will put a timestamp when we get into the spoilers part. But right now, we're just going to talk about the film and what I thought of it. Film, very good. Very good. There's some scenes where I'd go, the CGI here is terrible, or maybe it just looked really poor. I don't know why. There are some scenes where I went, this doesn't look very good. A few fight scenes looked a bit off. Like, you could tell it was scripted. You could tell it was fake. Which, it's a film. Of course it's fake. But there's certain films where you can actually make it look really good and look really real. To be honest, some of the Creed 3 scenes looked a bit better. Like, the fight scenes looked better than some of the Roadhouse scenes. But where would I rank it? Now, for 2024 films, I'm gonna put it, I don't even have a ranking system. I'm gonna have S, A, B, C, D, and an F. That'll be my rankings. I'm gonna put it in B. In the middle. It's not great. It's not bad at all. Jake Gyllenhaal, amazing. Conor McGregor, surprisingly actually really good. This film had me cracking up. It was quite funny, especially towards the end of the film. It was more funnier. It had a lot of jokes throughout the film, but I think the ending was just quite entertaining to watch. But we're not going to jump into it just yet. I'd give it an 8 out of 10, maybe a 7. CGI and some fight scenes kind of let the film down, and there's just too many shots in this film where too much is going on. And it's like, what am I watching? What am I meant to be looking at? There's so much happening here and there. If you've seen the trailer, then you'll know that there is UFC scenes in the film. As we know, it was filmed during I can't remember what fight it was. It was during one of the UFC 280s, I think it was. And I'm just going to say it. It was alright. It was alright. It wasn't the best. It's because they've put certain things on the shots that kind of ruin it, that make it obviously they've got to have it at a certain angle so it looks like they're hitting each other. But I just feel like it wasn't done to perfection. But we're now going to hop into the spoiler part of the film. So if you don't want to see it, click away, or maybe I'll put a timestamp of when we give my conclusion to if there'll be a second one or not, which could technically lead in spoilers. I'll just put a timestamp somewhere where I stop talking about the spoilers. Okay, so we're hopping into the spoiler parts. Let's start with the beginning of the film. The film starts off with, I do believe Post Malone is in this. If I'm correct, it is Post Malone. Hold on, let me make sure. It is Post. So Post Malone, I don't know who he's fighting, but he's fighting a guy and he beats him. He's fighting a guy and he wins. And that's one of the shots that you can see that it was kind of sped up to make it look like he hit him, but he didn't. You know, that was one of the scenes where the shot just didn't really land and it just didn't look good. And then after Post Malone won the fight, he's calling out everyone. He's like, I want to fight. And one of the main characters, Frankie, has been sent there to go and basically hire Post Malone's character. I don't know Post Malone's character. Carter. It's Carter. Sorry. Post Malone's character, Carter, to be a bartender at the Roadhouse. So that, because obviously all the stuff's going on at the Roadhouse with the, which we'll get later on, of why they're at the Roadhouse and why they're hiring them for what's going on. And instead, Dalton walks in. He gives money, gives a bag of money, well, a band or wad of money to, I guess, the ref, whatever you'd call them in a street bar fight. Not a ref, but it wasn't, I don't know what you'd call them. I guess you could say it's like a bartender, or maybe even one of the security guards. But he gave him the money, he got in, sat down, took off his hoodie, and Carter was like, no, not this guy. Fuck this guy. Get this guy out of here. I don't want to fight this guy. And Dalton just smiles and then takes the money and walks off. goes in his car. Now we're at the scene in the trailer where he's sleeping in the car. But Frankie goes over, he's like, and she's like, look, I've been told to come and get Carter, but you very clearly scared the shit out of this guy. I want you. Dalton's like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. So, Dalton's sleeping, the police knocks on his door. Oh yeah, Frankie also gave him like a note, number, so that, or a location to go to. And then Dalton goes, he drives a little bit, he drives onto a train track, and after he gets woken up by police, he drives on the train track, and the train's coming. And then he realizes he doesn't want to kill himself, so he turns on his car, drives a little bit, because obviously the train's coming and his car stalled, and he only got a little bit, and bang, the car got smashed. I believe the CGI looked pretty good in that. If I remember correctly, that CGI looked pretty good. Like, that actually looked alright. I don't know. Maybe not. The more I'm thinking about it, maybe not. Maybe the car looked a bit off when it got hit. And when you see the film, you'll know. If you have seen the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. Then he goes to Florida Keys Roadhouse. Well, he goes to Florida Keys, and there is a character there. Probably my favorite character out of the whole film. Charlie. Probably my favorite character. Charlie is probably my favorite character out of the whole film. And she gives him a book about where he is. Then he speaks about going to the Roadhouse, and he goes to the Roadhouse. They give him directions, and he goes to the Roadhouse. Now he's at the Roadhouse with Laura. I think I'm trying to remember it all. Apologies if I start rambling on and getting some parts wrong in wrong places, but I'm trying to remember it all. I've only just watched it. And what happens next? Well, then he is introduced to... I can't remember everything in the film, so we're going to go for key parts. So, things happen. The next key part, I'd say, is the part where he meets, like, the kind of the main villain's sidekicks, kind of. I'd say sidekicks. Now, a lot of people would say Conor McGregor is the main villain in this film as Knox. He's not. Well, he is, but he's not. He's the one who he fights, but Ben Brandit is the main... Brand? Is it Brand or Brandit? I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce it. But he's like the main villain in the film. He is actually the bad guy. Because what he wants to do is to tear down the Roadhouse. Because I can't remember what he wanted to do, but he wanted to tear it down due to reasons. It's not like a key focus of the film. It is, but it's not. It only appears right at the end of what he actually wants to do, of why he wants to tear it down. But throughout the whole film, he's kind of like, no, we don't want to burn it, we don't want to destroy it and that. Because when he meets Knox for the first time, he's like, let's not destroy it yet. Let's see if we can scare him off, and then. But he doesn't really want to destroy it until like the very end of the film. So I'm a bit confused on the story part there. So the whole point is about Ben basically owning this whole area, and he wants to get rid of the Roadhouse to put other things in there. But it's not like a key point of the film. Occasionally, Dalton will have flashbacks. So after he basically breaks what's his name's arm, after he breaks Mo's arm and all that, he does his fight outside of the Roadhouse. He goes to sleep. Where does he go to? Well, no, he goes to the hospital first and gets introduced to Ellie, which is kind of like the romantic love interest of the film, but also not. After he's been there, he goes to where he's sleeping, which is on a boat, and we start seeing the UFC. We start finally seeing the UFC. This is about 40 minutes into the film. It does take a while to get to the UFC parts, which is fine. I have no issue with it taking so long, but it's just the scenes were about a minute to like 2 minutes long, a few seconds long. Yes, I get it. The key focus is about a man who is an ex-UFC fighter, but it would have been nice to know why he was cut from UFC early. But when I finished the film, I'm like, okay, I actually enjoyed how they told the story of how he got cut from the UFC. But they technically didn't tell us he got cut from the UFC for what he did. We're going to get more into that later. So he keeps having the dreams. He wakes up, and you're starting to learn that he isn't the greatest. Like, not the greatest fighter, but not the greatest person. He was not a great person. you know, when it comes to these UFC scenes, I feel like they shouldn't have the Dalton versus whoever he was fighting on the back, because you don't really get to see that part as much. There are so many scenes from the UFC that were cut out. I don't know why. Yes, you had the weigh-in still. Yes, you had Dalton on the mic still. Yes, you had the fight. You still had all the scenes that they filmed, but they've cut them down. They're really short now. They're really, really short. But the next fight scene that we had, obviously, was before the hospital. So before the hospital, we had that fight scene. That fight scene wasn't too bad. You know, it looked good. I was like, okay, we've had one bad one. It's fine. It's going to get better from here. After that, we move on to trying to remember what's next. So then Dalton wakes up, goes to breakfast, and he finds Ellie again, and she's I don't know, she was kind of like a breakfast place, B&E maybe, really. I'm trying to think of what it would be, but she was basically at a location where he was getting food. They spoke for a bit. It was chill, and then I think next was their boat ride. I think next was them two going on a boat ride. No, next was the next fight. I think was the I'm trying to remember to put it all in the right order. Next was the next, yeah, because next was the next boat. Yeah, next was the next fight, where obviously Dalton tells was it Billy? I think it was, to step back, and then he'll throw the right hand. That happens. The whole fight happens, which didn't look too bad, but there once again was quite a bit going on. So the camera was very shaky and all over the place, so it's a bit annoying. When a camera's shaking all over the place, it's like you're trying to focus on it, but it's always moving, so you're not always focusing on that one thing. Then he goes back, goes to sleep, and then I think we get part of the fight. We get to see the first part of the fight. But whenever, like, the camera's always up in his face, and when it's turned, there's just too much wrong with the fight scenes in this film. That's my issue with the film, is there was fight scenes that were poor, which obviously the film isn't. I don't know, because it's focused on him. It's focused on Dalton, an ex-UFC fighter, Roadhouse, trying to protect it. It kind of just ruins the film a little bit. It's like, yeah, and then we get introduced to Knox. This is 50 minutes into the film, by the way. 50 minutes into the film. Knox finally appears. Now, fair enough, they don't normally introduce villains instantly. There's some films where they have introduced villains instantly. But this film, I quite liked when they introduced him. I was like, okay. But for God's sake, why did he have to be butt-ass naked? Why? Conor McGregor. You're alright at acting. You're alright. There's a few scenes here and there that I went, okay. It's because Conor has so much confidence. So you can see the confidence there. Someone like me, if I was acting, I wouldn't have all the confidence that McGregor has. My acting level would probably be down here compared to McGregor. But he was butt-ass naked, and he got a call from, basically, I think it was Ben's dad. It was Ben's dad saying Ben's having issues. So Conor McGregor has gone to where Ben and all his boys are, and he's like, look, I can see you guys are screwing up. So what we're gonna do, is we're gonna basically blow in the place, and we're gonna kill him. We're gonna kill Dalton. Yeah. And we also get introduced to Sheriff. The Sheriff. His name is just Sheriff in this. I don't know why they didn't give him a name. But we get introduced to the Sheriff, which is Ellie's dad. And basically, he's just a bad guy. He's a bad guy. After Ellie and Dalton come back from their date thing, the Sheriff picks up Dalton, which I forgot to mention. The guy who looked like the main bad guy in the trailer, he was right at the front as not McGregor, but the one where Mo and that got his arm broken. The main guy there, he got eaten by a crocodile. Yeah, he got eaten by an alligator, crocodile. I don't know, it's the same thing to me. But basically, Dalton was on his boat. He was warned about this crocodile, alligator coming around at some point, going to probably kill him. And basically, he's sat there waiting for Dalton to walk in on his boat. He's got a shotgun. He's like, look, I'm just gonna kill you because why not? So instead of pulling the trigger, he aims it at him and waits for Dalton to lift the shotgun and punch him. Dalton then throws him overboard of the boat, and he's holding on, trying to climb back up onto the boat, and Dalton sees the alligator. The alligator grabs him. Dalton's trying to pull him back up, and the rope snaps, and the guy's dead. That's the end of that guy. Then Dalton goes back to sleep. That's where we get the next UFC scene, which is where we get to see the fight. And then basically what happens is the next night, Ben. So this is where McGregor comes in. Knox comes in. Knox gets his well, I'd say Knox does quite well, but gets his ass whooped in the end. You know, usual hero villain stuff. And yeah, but Dalton also gets his ass whooped. So Dalton's then told by everyone, "You gotta leave. You've caused a lot of issues. You gotta leave. You should leave this place." The only person who's saying you shouldn't leave is Frankie. Everyone else is like, "Look, bro, you gotta leave. You gotta go." And then Dalton returns, doesn't leave, doesn't listen to anyone. Even Ellie says you gotta leave, and he doesn't. He comes back and goes back to the Roadhouse, and there is a man there waiting for him. Ben is sat there waiting for him. Ben walked over, and he said, "I know what you did," and shows the video to Dalton of what he did in the UFC. Explains what he done in the UFC. I'm not going to say it just yet. He said what Dalton had done in the UFC, and basically told us why he got retired or fired from UFC. And then a few minutes later, Dalton goes to leave. But then he saw that Charlie's place had burnt down, and that, which was the first place that we saw when he got there. And let's just say Dalton was pissed. And now we get to see what happened. So Dalton then goes off to where basically the bad guys' bases, you could say, and kills one of them. He's like, "Look, you guys." He was explaining, "Look, you guys scared me. You guys were gonna make me run off. I was leaving," and they were like, "Oh, so we've won then. You're leaving anyway, so it doesn't matter. We're gonna kill you though." And he's like, "Yeah, but that's where you've got it wrong. I'm gonna kill you instead." And exactly what Dalton does. He kills him. Mo's leaving. I love Mo. Mo's probably one of my favorite villains. He's not really a bad guy. And then Dalton returns to. So Ellie has an ex-boyfriend. I probably should have mentioned this earlier. Who had a boat. Obviously, they went on the boat ride and date thing. But Dalton goes and takes the boat to Ben's bigger boat, and it turns out Ben said he kidnapped Ellie, which is obviously the sheriff's daughter. So sheriff is like, "Look, Dalton, they've took my daughter. I need the money that they were waiting on, because they were getting a lot of money in." And they were like, "Look, we're waiting on money." And he takes the money. Well, takes the money. He lost the money earlier. He sent it away to wherever earlier on in the film. And the sheriff's like, "Look, meet us on the boat and give us the money, and my daughter will be set free, and so will you." Right? Dalton takes, obviously, Ellie's ex-boyfriend's boat, and while he was waiting so before the sheriff appeared to Dalton, he was making something. Now I'm gonna say what it is in a bit. So Dalton's got to the boat. A guy's punched him in the face. Like that. That's literally how the guy punched. Like a little tap. It was terrible. It was a terrible punch. Now, I don't know if they're trying to say that guy was super weak, didn't know how to punch, or it's just the film was just terrible with how that one was handled. Anyways, Dalton gets on the boat, climbs up and goes to the top, and he's like, Ben's like, "Where's my money?" And he's like, "I ain't got your money." And the sheriff's like, and Dalton's like, "This guy seems very happy for someone whose daughter's just been kidnapped." And the sheriff was like, "Yeah, that didn't actually happen." Ben turns around and said, actually, it did happen. And then we have the first funny scene, in my opinion, of the film where he's like, oh, double cross. Oh, double cross. Yeah, it was quite entertaining. And so we find out that Ellie's still on the boat. Now, Dalton, being himself, strapped something onto the boat, the ex-boyfriend's boat. It was a bomb. He had a bomb the whole time. So he blew up the bomb. He detonated the bomb. It took him a few times. He had to aim the keys at the car to blow it up. The boat to blow it up. And then he goes down into like the poop deck to save Ellie, which he does. And then Knox appears on his boat. Obnoxious. That's what he should be called. Anyways, Knox gets on the boat and there's a whole water scene. It's quite entertaining. It's quite interesting. Which isn't too bad. And there was also a car scene super early in the film, which I forgot to mention. It had the worst. It looked terrible. It was awful. There was this car scene where they were trying to kill Dalton, and it looked horrible. I don't know what was up with the car. Like, did they use a real car or did they use a fake car? Because that car did not look real to me. It was terrible. Then, obviously, we have them on the boats. They're fighting on the boats. They're getting on each other's boats fighting. And then they crash into the Roadhouse. And there's the final fight. Dalton versus Ben. Ben's getting absolutely demolished. And, yeah. And then Knox appears. Knox decides to appear. So, before Ben could get finished off, Knox appears. They fight a little bit. Dalton gets his ass handed to him for a bit. And then Ben's screaming at Knox to kill Dalton, and Knox decides to just kill Ben because that's normal. He was like, "Do you know when to shut up?" and just kills him. Anyways, but then Dalton obviously beats up Knox for a little bit, and that's really the end of the film. Then he leaves. That's how it ends. He actually leaves the place. So yes, he protected the Roadhouse from the douchebags, but the end of the film was a bit, it's like real life. It was a bit like real life. No, not, I don't know. I don't know if I'm satisfied or dissatisfied with the ending, because he does leave. He's like, look, I've done what I had to do. You know, Charlie's like, oh, but you're not a hero in the story. You're not a villain in the story. You know, you haven't got to leave. You can stay. And he's like, nah. And then he just leaves, and that was it. That is literally the film. He leaves. Also, apologies if I got a lot of this wrong or if I got it in the wrong space. I just got off watching the film. So it's all still around, but it's all in different places right now in my head. And then we get basically the credits, and there's a little post-credits thing. Of Knox coming out of a hospital. He's not dead. They made it seem like he was dead in the end of the film, and then he's apparently not dead. So, Roadhouse 2, Knox maybe? Now, I did hear rumours that Michael Chandler had filmed scenes for this film. I did not see Michael Chandler once. So, them rumours were false. Unless if he's in deleted scenes, which is a bit sad, because Michael Chandler can do that. Unless I'm stupid and he was in like a background or something. But, that's that. Was it a good film? I'd say it was good. It's a fun film. Did it deserve... I believe it deserves to go in cinemas. But I believe it would have probably been a bit more hated if it was in cinemas. Because it's on a streaming platform. You can be like, oh, well, it's on a streaming platform. It has reasons for it being poor. If that film went in cinemas with that type of CGI and that type of fight scenes, I feel like people would be like, oh, this film sucks, man. This deserves nothing. This is worse than a Marvel movie. Don't get me wrong, the CGI was bad, but Marvel has had really poor CGI recently. Especially from Black Widow. Like, even they, compared to the Marvel films, this wasn't good. This wasn't bad, sorry. But that's it. That's all I got. Did I enjoy the film? Yeah. If you enjoy MMA and fight scenes, would you enjoy the film? Maybe not MMA, but fight scenes definitely. There's definitely a few things here and there where you can go, oh, bro, if you did this, then you would have beat him, you know? There's a lot of MMA moves in it, which obviously makes sense. Dalton is a UFC fighter. But it's just also like, there's a lot wrong with his MMA moves, with his UFC finishes and all that. So it's alright. but I don't really know what genre this should be. Action, yes. Comedy, not really. What have they put it as? I mean, look, if you're looking for a fun film, I haven't watched the original. I know it's criminal. I haven't watched the original of the Roadhouse 1 and 2. So I will have to watch it. Is this like the originals? I don't know. If you've seen it, let me know. Is this like the originals or is this? I mean, it's not gonna be the exact same. It's a UFC fighter. Roadhouse is an ex-boxer, I think it was. I don't know, or was it just another ex? I know it wasn't UFC. I don't know if it was MMA or boxing though. But apart from that, that's it. I quite enjoyed it. But if you check it out, let me know what you think. This is just my thoughts and opinions. I quite enjoyed it. But apart from that, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Take care. Bye.